So it kind of makes it clearly not a writing thing, not a crochet thing, but decidedly a me thing. This is a me tendency. We don't want to say problem, but a tendency. Hello friends. It is tea time. Blueberry lavender tea time. Very hot still, but very good. So as some of you might know, I have recently gotten into crocheting, or back into crocheting, I should say. My grandma actually taught me when I was a kid, and it has been really fun to pick up again decades later. I actually have some of her old projects she was in the middle of before her eyesight went, before she passed. And it's kind of a goal of mine to one day get to pick it back up again and like be skilled enough to either continue the project to finish it, or to like, I don't know, be able to understand the piece enough to create it into something new, to sort of repurpose it. Yes. The act of crocheting in a lot of ways makes me feel really connected to her. No matter what the project is, she did mostly like blankets or wearables, and I have dabbled in that, but also dabbled in a little bit of like amigurumi, and it's been really cool to broaden my horizons in that way. And broaden my horizons I have, because when I first started crocheting again, I made a deal with myself, a deal ultimately, as it turns out, I really couldn't keep. That is most of my deals that I make with myself, which is that I wanted to work one project at a time. I love Reddit. And I love the crocheting subreddit perhaps the most. I get so much inspiration from there, so many ideas. The to be crocheted list, much like the to be written list and the to be read list, miles long. Miles. And one of the things that I saw a lot of people on that subreddit talk about is the like kind of the land of deserted projects they've started. The hordes of yarn that they have, entire rooms full of yarn that they have. Never mind the yarn trolley I have behind me. Projects that they're midway through, the ones that they've started and will probably never return to, the ones they've tried to restart but can't because the company no longer makes the exact yarn that they were using because it had been that many years, so on and so forth. And I thought somehow I would be able to escape the struggle, which is so ridiculous. Absolutely, what was I thinking? Because this is not too dissimilar from the struggles I have with writing. Lots of WIPs just strewn about in various partially completed states. So I want to talk about those projects, both the crochet projects and the writing projects, and the overlap I see between the two, the kind of categories that I have within my mind, what I have learned in general, both about myself, but also these two kind of like creative pursuits. And I guess just other reflections that crochet has mirrored for me in my writing journey. It's really funny to see these kind of, I don't want to call it pitfalls, but similar struggles, similar mindsets even going into projects across hobbies. So it kind of makes it clearly not a writing thing, not a crochet thing, but decidedly a me thing. This is a me tendency. We don't want to say problem, but a tendency. The first sort of project I want to call the biting off more than you can chew. I would argue this is the most common pitfall I run into. Basically just being not skilled enough yet, but also not skilled enough to see that I'm not yet skilled enough. Yeah. I saw this really cute sort of hexagon pattern bag from Tony at Teal Yarn Scraps, who I love. Easily like my favorite crochet YouTuber. And so I followed that tutorial as best I could. This is what I got, okay? I'll show you what it's supposed to look like. This is what I got, the other side, where you can actually see the yarn. Okay, here's the thing. Not that bad, right? In theory, I should be able to just do this again. Like, that's the point, you're supposed to do this again, a second time. I took a little bit of a break from this. I crocheted, I think, an amigurumi in between. Yes. And I came back to this now more skilled because of what I had learned at the amigurumi. And I looked at this again. And when I tell you I fucked up following her pattern, I fucked it up. Through no fault of hers, I have no idea. I don't know what I did. Something went wrong. And I actually don't think this looks too wrong. This is cute. This is fine. But when you go to make a second one of these and you don't do it the same way. Not only that, you're supposed to connect it, right? Because it's going to be a bag. If you don't have the same anyways, through no fault of Tony's. Tony is a brilliant teacher. I went forth with a confidence that was not yet earned. And it bit me in the ass. Now, I think realistically, had I not taken that break with the amigurumi, what probably would have happened is I could have made a duplicate of these, but I would not have been able to follow the next part of connecting it and turning it into a bag. I would have had to make a like considerably different version if I tried to hobble something together, which I kind of hope that maybe I can do, but anyways. It's funny, I was watching an Elise Myers video and she talked about, her advice was for beginners not to start with granny squares, but to start with amigurumi, which I actually agree with personally, having done granny squares several times and failing until I didn't, but also I still think granny squares are harder. I'm gonna harken back to some really old advice, but one of my hot takes once upon a time was based off of the George R. R. Martin advice to start with short story if you want to learn to write novels, which again, not totally sure I agree with, but I think there's something to be said for starting with a small amigurumi, which takes you in total perhaps, you know, a day, 2 days maybe, depending on how detailed it is or whatever, versus say a granny square cardigan, blanket, anything that's big. There's something satisfying in being able to complete something, and the confidence that it gives you. So anyways, that's a brief crochet aside. There are several stories that I have started writing and I just frankly did not have the skill set at the time to do them. One of my biggest examples that I always use is my Scooby Doo meets Princess Bride story, which I have tried in multiple different iterations, but juggling that many characters was just not something that I am talented or skilled enough to do from the point of view that I was trying to do them, each having their own POV chapters. I actually started writing that for the first time very early on in my sort of writing journey, I would say, and it's so funny because I think you need to make the hexagon bag and abandon it. You need to try those to kind of understand where your limits are, but also to push those limits. But I think I've had to quit those also because I was not yet skilled enough. So, you know, I'm not going to throw away my little hexagon. It's beautiful. But it probably can't ever be the bag that I was envisioning. Might be something else, I don't know. I can see if I can repurpose it. Kind of like with Scooby Doo meets Princess Bride. I think I still in some ways cling to that story in its original format because I think stories have this interesting way of just like implanting themselves in your mind, kind of like the murder your darlings thing. But when it's the heart of the story that you're having to murder, I would have to kill off half of my darlings in order to have even a normal sized cast of characters. I also think there's projects that you have to start and work on, like Murder Mystery Tennessee. It was the first mystery project that I was really working on where the mystery is the focus. Not that there's, I think in a lot of your favorite stories there is a mystery element, but specifically a mystery genre story. It was my first one and it just blew my mind. For as many mysteries as I had watched up until that point, and for as many mysteries as I had read up until that point, being able to write one, woof. I have now written 1, 2, 3. I'm on my 4th one, I would argue, with A Closet Full of Cauldrons, like fully written it through, and it's only now that I'm feeling very confident that in a matter of weeks I'm going to be sending it to alpha readers, which is very exciting. But also, those other projects I have quit, and will I ever return to them? I don't know, but they were necessary stepping stones in a lot of ways, in the same way that I see that hexagon bag. It was like a necessary stepping stone. If I could just figure out what I did. I am excited to push myself with another bag, potentially even another hexagon bag in the future, because I think they're very cool. But at the time, this was my first time ever working in a hexagon before. It was kind of taking some of the skills I learned from granny squares and some of the skills I learned from amigurumi and like putting it all into one. So I still felt accomplished in a lot of ways, even though I fucked it up. But this category I don't really have any issue with personally. Like in my little heart of hearts and my creator heart. You know, I don't mind having tried something and it not working because I can use that as a learning lesson. This next category is where I just really kind of shake my head at myself. I don't even know what to call it. I'll come up with something and after I'm done filming in post. And that is, where is this? Oh, is it still on? Whoop. So much yarn. Hopefully I don't knot this. That would be a lesson, wouldn't it? Don't film in. Some of y'all may recognize this as the start of, why didn't I put in a fucking, who knows, why didn't I put a stitch marker in? Oh well. Some of y'all may recognize this as what was going to be my NaNoWriMo scarf. This actually in itself was supposed to be a test of sorts because I was going to try a temperature blanket, which from everything that I can tell off of Reddit and YouTube and everything else, temperature blankets are really the things that people start and abandon part of the way through because it's a long-term project. A lot of crochet is long-term projects, much like writing is, frankly, but it's a whole year. It's a long-term project, these temperature blankets. And so I wanted to do a month-long version based off of my writing and how many words I got during Nano. And the big issue I ran into was that I started having I was having some health issues at the start of 2023 and they really saw a spike up around October, November. Also in the time that I was starting to get help for them, right? So I started that, but then fell behind because of the aforementioned health issues. And I put my projects during NaNoWriMo first, my writing projects. Also, the NaNoWriMo organization just exploded. I don't know, got appropriate criticism and not handled it well since. I used to be a big donor to NaNoWriMo. I've fundraised for NaNoWriMo and I am no longer either of those things. I am very disappointed. But all that to say, that also started, I want to say, during November. So anyways, so it kind of, it put a little dent into how I was feeling. You could also see that I really didn't get that many days, but I did record each of the days. So there was at some point still some excitement that dwindled rather rapidly. And honestly, the other part, this is the big thing with me, I don't wear scarves. It frankly doesn't get cold enough where I live to ever really warrant a scarf. Maybe once or twice a year. Maybe. I did actually make a scarf that I wore around Japan, which was awesome. I'm very glad I completed that one. It was beautiful. And that is now my one scarf that I will ever have, that I will ever make for myself, okay? And wear. So I have a project that I have chronicled for most of NaNoWriMo. For most of the NaNoWriMos, because that's the one I typically work on during November, or was working on, and that is Project Death. And at least on like this scarf in particular, I feel some more hope with it. But when I say that it's kind of like riddled with ups and downs along the way, that is very much how I feel. I think I just have some emotions attached to it that is not the scarf itself, the project itself, right? But I outwardly, as I've worked on it, have put those emotions onto it, and it's not like a great feeling, to be honest. I also recently had a bit of an epiphany. I'd gotten prior beta reader feedback on a character and made a little change for the last draft, and then I had an epiphany one night and I was like, I think I just need to take that entire character out. So anyways, I think it's one of those things maybe where it's like a concept that I love, a project that I've had ups and downs with, and just I think as writers we have to be emotionally involved in our stories in a way, but ultimately our stories are our characters. And I think that for this one, like this, I attach being sick to a lot, and then I attach the NaNoWriMo organization to, and so it kind of just like taints this project through no fault of its own, and Project Death feels very similar to me in that way. So you know, the difference being I'll probably never return to this. We might come back to this at the end, and I think I might just, where are you? I can repurpose this. We might just go ahead and the whole way through, you know, just, ooh, so satisfying. So there are the scarves and the project desks of the world that I just like, some of them I think I probably will complete eventually, but they stand in sort of this limbo with some bad feelings attached to them, I would say. And then we have projects like, it cannot fit on my cart, okay? It isn't here. My blanket, okay? I will have to stand up so I can show you the scale of this right now, okay? He's a big boy. These are the big projects, but they're just long. They're commitments. You can't speed your way through it, you know? So in that way, they can become tiring. They lose some of the excitement, wow factor. They're ones that you're just kind of like chugging along, but you also feel okay putting to the side for a bit. It's not like the hexagon where I'm gonna somehow forget what I did. It's just long. In some ways, it's like the opposite of the shiny new idea. I think it's the one that you can always return to though. It's like the projects that I do just for me, where I don't need to be on a deadline or a timeline necessarily. And it's okay if I take some time away from them. Maybe they're characters that have been with me for a really long time. In some ways, to me, that's like the Meridian Maps, where they just live on in my heart and I will get back to it, and I do get back to it, and I spend some time with them, and then I put them to the side for a little bit. And that's okay, because they're gonna be there. It's gonna be there, and they're gonna be finished. It's just gonna take a little bit longer. That's kind of how I feel. Trying to pose with it. And then finally, just gonna drop everything. And then finally, I want to talk about some of the amigurumi that I've made. So some of them I have gifted, but I'm using amigurumi as like I'm trying to learn how to crochet by reading a pattern instead of following a tutorial. I'm a very visual learner. I'm a trial and error learner. But I would love if I could just read a pattern. The way patterns are written, there's both a written out pattern and then there's like a diagram pattern. I'm trying the written out one first. So in trying that for the Year of the Dragon, I had hoped to make my partner's entire family little dragons for the year, and my mom too, because she loves dragons. The thing is though, again, this is my first time, he's very cute, okay? He's adorable, but he's not, and I do display him, but I would argue he's not good enough to gift to someone. Like he's not bad. I think he's quite cute. Got his little wings, little horns, little eyes. Yeah, he's quite cute, but I just wouldn't feel confident gifting this to someone. Like I can do better in some ways, but he's not bad. Again, I display him. I'm proud of him. I haven't named him. Should I name him? Anyways, I am trying to this is in the middle of a different version that I'm trying to turn a dinosaur pattern into a dragon pattern. So this guy actually he's gonna have little things going to, anyways, I am trying again, but ultimately I don't even know if I can gift this one either. I don't know if you can see this. I think I just picked the wrong yarn, to be totally honest. I don't like the gaps in this one. And his little arms are hilarious, but I don't know if I love it. Anyways, this guy's gonna have a friend though. I consider this to be almost like the Project Purples of the world in my mind. My kind of projects where I wrote them, I got beta reader feedback, I edited them to the best that I could, and then I looked at it and I was so proud of it, but then I ultimately was like, I have no desire to give this to anyone. I have no desire to have other people read this. I do think it's interesting. Project Purple's not the only one that I've had that on, but it's the only one I've talked about that I've had that on. Briefly mentioned on the channel that I was trying to write that was like a dorm series, and I did write those and I did get feedback on them, and then I set them aside, but I still feel like I needed to do that in order to get to a place where I was sharing romance stuff with other people, you know? So yes, cute. I'll still display him. I'm still proud of the Project Purples and the romances, but not for others. And I think these kind of collective projects are interesting because I don't know where or how long these projects can sit for in these states before it's quitting, before they become projects that I will never return to. Like, how long do they still feel like they're WIPs in some way? Like, for instance, I've started and stopped iterations of the Scooby Doo meets Princess Bride story, but I don't consider that a WIP right now. Yeah, I don't. I consider it an idea I have. I consider it an idea I worked on several times, but it's not a WIP. You know, I would be very interested in what that distinction is for you for your past projects. I don't know the moment that we take these projects and kind of close the door on them. When do we like put them in our desk drawer and close them forever? You know, I don't know. Like, I will finish my blanket. I haven't worked on it in months, but I will finish it. So I know that one for certain. And not only will I finish this blanket, but I know I will start another blanket. I will finish the Meridian Maps, and I know I'll want to start on a new long series. Like, that's just how it is. I know that to be true. As just sort of long form projects, something for me to always return to, something that feels like, you know, kind of home in a lot of ways. I didn't talk about this, but I'm also in the middle of a cardigan, which I'm very excited about. I'll return to that too. Haven't worked on it since December, but it was also a little bit out of my comfort zone at the time, but I think I have fixed up those skills and I think I'm ready to return to it. I'm doing this like little popcorn bit, and it was hard at the time, but then I did some amigurumi where I had to do a little popcorn stitch, and I was like, oh, I figured it out. So anyways, I know I will continue this iteration of my amigurumi, but like, I don't know for certain that I will return to the hexagon bag. Exactly, you know, I'm still trying to think of ways I could repurpose it. I do think this is gonna be very cathartic, I think, in some ways. I'm just gonna undo the whole thing. And it's interesting, this is kind of similar. So you can see that I tied off the ends of this. So I was trying to do one color a day. And at first, as I'm undoing this, I was like, oh, well, it's not like it can be used for anything else, but actually I use other yarn for stuffing. I've seen people use extra yarn for projects that they need to just like finish up. So I'm undoing this so that it can I can give it new life again. And it's so funny because I think we do that for a lot of our writing projects where we repurpose, you know, characters. Sometimes it's repurposing dialogue. Sometimes it's like almost entire scenes where it couldn't work in that particular story we were telling, but we are so attached to it, we do love it, that we're going to try again. We're gonna try elsewhere. So yeah, another similarity, you see. And much like my long list of story ideas, I have a long list of the to be crocheted, to be read, to be written lists are insane. I want to make a book bag. I do want to make a bag, like the hexagon bag. I want to make a bag. I want to make like a little holder for my books. My books, or this is so fun, or my laptop. That would be quite nice. One of my goals for the year is to make amigurumi for my friends and send it to them. And even though I talked about not knowing when something is like a WIP versus you've just quit it and will never return to it, I do think that's one of the fun parts, so long as you use a stitch marker, so long as you save your work. You know, you can always return to your stories. You can always repurpose elements of your stories or elements of your projects, and that's just, I think that's really fun. It's kind of like a ship of Theseus question. Like, what point does it become something entirely new? This one now has an entirely new life. But with writing, I do wonder. So please do comment down below. Let me know if any of this resonated with you. Let me know if you have hobbies that you're starting to notice, like some personal patterns around, and maybe especially if they coincide with writing. Let me know if there's some other hobbies that you're wanting to get into. I've tried a lot of hobbies and it has been fun. I love trying things, y'all know. But it has been fun to see that crochet really has stuck around for me as something that I genuinely love. And same with writing. Like, even if I'm not writing for an audience, I'm writing for me. And I think that's just, you know, a wonderful, beautiful thing. This is the start. We're gonna get back to the first chain. Ooh. Let me also know if you have categories for your stories or categories you notice patterns falling into. But that's it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you with a new video very soon. Bye. Oh.